Yeah. It's the 23rd. Okay, let's start over again. Good evening. I'd like to call the October 23rd regular city council meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation?
To avoid inflammatory language that can escalate tensions. Focused on shared values or goals which help people unite despite their differences. Your behavior can influence others. Demonstrating this respect and calmness can encourage similar responses. We all know these are trying times. Let's be kind to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Gregory. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb? Here. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Gregory?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ross? Here. Mayor Carnevale?
Here. Are there any changes to the agendas, Charlie?
I have no changes, Mayor.
Okay. We have a special presentation that we're all excited about. Recognize Code Enforcement Month 2024. Hi, Andy.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Today, I am honored to recognize National Code Enforcement Appreciation Month and to acknowledge the sizable efforts of the city's Code Compliance Division to move Cathedral City forward with commitment, pride, and excellence. Code Compliance Division is supported by professional associations, including the American Association of Code Enforcement Officers and the California Association of Code Enforcement Officers, organizations that help provide training, certification, and standards for the profession. While these organizations have been formed in the last 40 years, the code enforcement profession itself evolved out of the early 20th century with other aspects of city administration that were focused on the need to build more organized communities and to improve public health and safety. Those early efforts focused on standardized building codes and apologize. You know you're getting old when you can't read 14-point font?
With your glasses on.
With my glasses on, yes. Those early efforts focused on standardized building codes to regulate construction and to promote greater fire protection, later taking on health and sanitation issues in response to overcrowding in cities. In more recent decades, the profession has taken on responsibility for land use enforcement, property maintenance, and nuisance abatement to help maintain property values and community appearance. In the last year, the Code Compliance Division has taken on new programs to enforce illegal sidewalk vendors and abandoned shopping carts while continuing to administer and enforce the city's short-term vacation rental ordinance. The division continues to respond to nuisance complaints in a responsive manner. In December, Justin Gardner will be back before the City Council to talk through and provide updates on all of those efforts. Well, most of us know code compliance through their enforcement of these nuisance conditions. This week is a reminder to me that we are still addressing those fundamental public health and safety issues, even in our own community. And the Code Compliance Division is our first responder to investigate and enforce those issues, including the lack of hot running water and mold in a large apartment complex here in our city. Those issues still exist. It's one of the fundamental reasons we have codes, why we have a code enforcement staff, and our code enforcement staff is hard at work addressing all of these issues. As I conclude my comments, I want to acknowledge the professional staff that are in the audience today and their own growth and development in the course of the last year. Officer Martinez is only one course away from attaining her certified code enforcement officer status. Annika Sanchez and Officer Fox have started their first college course in code enforcement and compliance. Officer Gaunt just completed his PC 832 training, and both he and Officer Mendez have passed their field training and are working independently in the field on your behalf. All of the officers working for Cathedral City have been diligently working their caseloads, and we remain under 1,000 cases in Cathedral City. Finally, the Code Compliance Division cannot do this alone. It takes a community. I am pleased to share with you the first video in the Cracking the Code series that is meant to help communicate the importance of the city's regulations and to foster greater community engagement and a sense of pride and property maintenance responsibility within the community. I'll go ahead and play.
Welcome to Cracking the Code, where we help make Cathedral City an even more beautiful place to live, learn, work, and play. Today, we're talking about something that affects every household in our community: proper trash container management. Did you know? Your trash, recycling, and composting containers need a proper home too. They should never be stored where they're visible from the streets or neighboring properties. Here's the golden rule. After service day, containers should be brought in within 12 hours. It's a simple step that makes a big difference in our neighborhood's appearance. The solution is simple. Store your containers behind your gate, in your garage, or any area out of public view. But what about larger items like furniture or old TVs? Never leave these items on the curb without a pickup schedule. The good news? Vertec will pick up 4 bulky items per week absolutely free. Just call to schedule your pickup. Remember, only place items out on the morning of your scheduled pickup day. When we all follow these simple guidelines, our neighborhoods stay beautiful and our property values stay strong. Together, we're keeping Cathedral City clean, one container at a time. See a violation? Report it easily with the My Cathedral City app today. Available to download for free on both Apple and Samsung devices.
So to the Code Compliance Division, thank you for everything you do for the City of Cathedral City. Mayor and Council, thank you for helping us recognize National Code Enforcement Appreciation Month.
And I think, Martinez, how long have you been with Cathedral City? 23 years. 23 years.
You're not even 23 years old.
Great job. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the city clerk, would you please read the statement of participation? Oh, wait. Yeah, statement of participation.
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any items not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you're a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. And Mayor, we do have quite a few requests to speak this evening. Our first speaker is Alan Carvalho.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. Mr. Ernesto Gutierrez, we are blessed to have our rights to free speech. I'm a strong proponent of our Constitution. When I had the honor of representing our city for 6 years as the chair of the Public Arts Commission, I remained passionate about my political and personal points of view, and I was bold enough to speak my mind. And Charlie called me into his office to remind me that I must state as a personal opinion my views. Otherwise, I'm perceived as representing our city. So I made sure I always address views as a personal matter. But know one thing, Councilmember Gutierrez, You have every right to support any candidate for president, even a cult leader, but you do not have the right to represent our city and hold the city to your politics. You should have been quoted as a council. You should not have been quoted as a council member, but instead a citizen of our fair city. You should have made it clear to the press that you are not representing our city. You were representing your personal political views. You have an obligation to represent the entire city, not just your district. You were voted into office not as a Republican, but as a citizen. I took personal offense to your statement, and although we will never share political views, many friends who don't live here felt it was that you had spoken for the entire city and called me to find out why. I take issue with your statement and wanted to make it clear that I strongly object to representing the council without making it clear that your opinion is personal, not representative of the position that you hold on council. I just wanted to make sure that you understood it. I was called to the office. I hope Charlie gave you the same respect to say, that's just not what we can do. I didn't know better, and I was told, and that's what I did from that point on. You can't do this, sir. You just can't do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
The next speaker is Debbie Price.
Good evening, Mayor and esteemed City Council. My name is Debbie Price, and my husband and I have made our winter home at the outdoor resort Palm Springs since January 2022. When we purchased our lot, we were told that there would be a pot growing operation right behind us, but that there was an agreement that the operation would be good neighbors. And also that they were going to build a new dog park that would adjoin our resort. Being from Oregon originally, where there is either a Starbucks or a Nectar, which is also a cannabis store, on every corner, we believed that this would not have been a problem. All was good until last spring of this year, when from what all of us understood at the resort, that the company was granted a temporary occupancy and operation permit. One evening we noticed when we were walking our dog an intense odor of pot. The next morning, going outside, there was a smell again, even more intense. Residents at the resort started complaining of the smell consistently from our wall on the west all the way to the back southeast wall. Many of us would be awakened in the middle of the night with that same horrible smell. Many of us met at the resort along with the president of our board of directors, and we were told to start making complaints to Rochelle Brooks at Cathedral City. Many of us did and did not hear back from anyone. The full-time residents at Orp suffered through the summer with the same obnoxious smell with no relief in sight. As we returned to our winter home, we were told that they would be good neighbors again and work to stop that smell. We arrived October 13th, and the odor was just as intense, and many times I would be awakened in the middle of the night again from a deep sleep with that odor. One morning a few days ago, I woke up to go drink my coffee outside, and I couldn't even stay outside on my patio because my eyes were watering so bad from what was ever happening over there. We have owners that are unable to rent their units or sell them. The purchase prices have decreased because many are opting to sell instead of stay. I've been a realtor in Oregon for 30 years and have been well aware of what this can cause as far as financial problems because of the smell. We understand that they're working on the scrubbers for the smell, but until the smell can be remediated, we're asking for the temporary permit to operate be rescinded until the time we and the other residential properties in our area can enjoy our homes without the odor. 6 years ago, Stan Henry he was the mayor, promised a state-of-the-art air filtration system. This is what the communities around this establishment expected. We ask that the promise that was made to us be kept. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
The next speaker is Sunshine Herrera.
Hello, Sunshine.
Mayor, fellow council members. Fellow Cathedral City residents, now that you have your ballots, I want to address Measure W and why we should vote no. Measure W's purpose proposes a significant increase in our sales tax by ½ cent. While this may seem small, the impact on families and local businesses could be substantial. For many residents, especially those on fixed incomes, every penny counts, leading to tough choices on essentials. While the measure claims to enhance services like emergency response and street maintenance, it's projected to generate about $5 million annually. We need to ask ourselves, will this truly cover the costs for the services it promises? According to the Pavement Management Program, the city needs between $2 million and $15.1 million annually just to address our roads. Is $5 million enough to adequately meet our community's pressed needs? Moreover, the city isn't actively cutting costs or finding efficiencies. Instead of tightening the budget, Measure W relies on increased taxes as a primary solution. This raises concerns about fiscal responsibility. If we don't address unnecessary spending, Measure W could equal waste, burdening taxpayers without delivering results. We must also consider our local economy. Since 2020, many businesses in Cathedral City have closed, straining our community. A sales tax increase could push remaining businesses to the brink, threatening jobs and livelihoods. Finally, relying on sales tax is risky. In economic downturns, revenue could plummet, leading to cuts in essential services like public safety. In conclusion, while Measure W aims to support our community, we must prioritize our financial stability. I urge you to vote no on Measure W and call on our City Council to focus on waste reduction before increasing taxes. This is a key point that resonates with many voters. They need to thoroughly examine whether wasteful spending is currently happening in our city's budget before asking constituents to make this significant decision during a downturn in the economy. Raising taxes should be a last resort. Stop the waste. Thank you.
The next speaker is Toby Perkins.
If I could just say, if we could just keep professional and not have any applauding, cheering, or booing. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Toby Perkins, and I'm an owner at Outdoor Resorts Palm Springs. It's located at 69411 Ramon Road, just east of Date Palm. Over time, we have been experiencing extreme odor from this facility. Many of the neighbors have voiced concerns over the plans when this was originally determined to build this facility. Multiple owners of this facility, along with the members of city government, have assured us that there would not be any odor emitting from the processing facility. Well, as it turns out, they were all wrong. The facility has been in operation for over a year now and continues to stink. We as homeowners are not able to live in our homes without feeling nauseous and sick to our stomachs. We are not able to enjoy our patios, and we are not able to enjoy any outdoor activities. What's even worse is if we stay inside, our air handling systems are bringing in this sickening odor into our homes. We have been promised over and over again, yet the owners of this facility continue to make excuses only to make false statements and promises again and again. Many of the owners are selling their properties. This is resulting in lower prices. Not only is the smell reducing our property values, it's resulting in fewer and fewer visitors to Cat City, resulting in lost tax revenue for our city. I am here with many owners asking that you take all necessary actions to permanently eliminate the odor coming from this marijuana processing facility. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will take this matter very seriously.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jens Mueller.
Good evening, Council. Well, it seems like you've got some work cut out for you. Promises made, promises not kept. Homeowners losing value while you sit on your hands. A few minutes ago, you did the Pledge of Allegiance, and I wonder who you are pledging your allegiance to. Is it to the homeowners? To the taxpayers? I don't think so. I think it's to the police and fire. I think it's to the shrill left of this community that gets you elected. While the silent majority is voiceless, and you sit on your hands. I need one leader among you that will stand up for the citizens of this city. We can no longer afford, with all due respect, gentlemen, our own police and fire. It is unsustainable. W is a smokescreen. I urge all citizens to vote no. We have the money. We waste millions every year on a liability policy to have our own police department. Nancy, you've been in office for 4 years. We waste $10 million a year. That's $40 million that you've wasted sitting there. Raymond, you've been in office for 6 years. That's $60 million that we could have used for paving our roads, lowering our taxes, and yet you sit on your hands. Rita, how long have you been in office? 5 years? That's $50 million that you've seen go right down the drain. Why should anyone vote for you? You vote to raise their taxes. You don't vote to save money. Has any one of you even thought to get a bid from the sheriffs and county fire to save the citizens money? Mark, how much have you wasted?
Oh, millions.
Millions, 100 million. You've been in office for 10 years and you sit on your hands. You don't do anything. You're all afraid. Everyone's afraid of the police and fire. Excellent leadership. You guys should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Thanks for that information, Jens. Much appreciated.
The next speaker is Mary Ellen Muir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for this opportunity. I am a full-time resident. My husband and I have outdoor resort and have been for 24 years. The past year we have put up with the smell as has already been discussed, but over this past summer it's been really intense. Just for those of you that don't know what we are, we're 1,213 deeded lots, so they are owned lots. We have 2 golf courses. We have pickleball courts, tennis courts, 7 outdoor pools. We are outdoor resort, and we like to be outdoors, especially this time of year, enjoying it. And with the smell, we do understand that there is going to be something installed by November 1st that will take care of it, but I would just like you all to stay on top of it and make sure that really happens. Because as was mentioned, it's our property values as well as our quality of life. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joanne Byrne.
Hi, my name is Joanne Byrne. I'm a resident of Outdoor Resorts of Palm Springs, and my colleagues and homeowners, I just want to echo what they've been saying. I have health conditions, and it does not allow me to be outside for very long, and I would hope that you guys do stay on top and have this system put in place by November the 1st. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Christine Anderson.
Mayor, councillors, thank you very much for listening, taking time to hear us. I'm Christine Anderson. I'm a Canadian. I come here for 182 days of the year. I come here to do one thing, to relax and enjoy my retirement. This year, or last year, just before we left, I did come in here personally to the City Hall and to the pot farm and spoke to both of you. I was told I would get a response back. I didn't. So I returned, and I was told it was personal use. I'd like to let you know 1,213 units are not potheads. I know that further investigations have happened, and I'm hoping that you do take everything very, very seriously you are hearing today. We are 35% of the population at ORPS. That's a lot of money coming into your city. I take pride in the city. I've been here for over 10 years now. I volunteer around the city, but I'm going to pull the plug and get out of here if we don't get something done about ORPS, because that smell next door, it's killing people. We're not killing, I guess that's pretty drastic, but it is changing our lives. And I would rather stay here than go to Arizona, and I bet you 35% of the population that are following behind me feel the same. Thank you very much, and please take this seriously.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lynn Berry.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Berry. I also, own at Outdoor Resort Palm Springs. And I was one of the residents at the time the proposal came through for the marijuana plant. And so much of what has actually happened was predicted at that time. And there was so much reassurance that technology had changed, that filtration systems had changed. But here we are, and our worst fears, in fact, have been confirmed. Many of our residents are seniors. They do have health issues, particularly respiratory issues, and they are really challenged with this. If there are any thoughts that we might be exaggerating what's been happening, I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning out of a sound sleep simply by odor. It is that strong and that powerful. So to reiterate what my eloquent friends have already commented on, we would really appreciate some sincere attention to this issue. It is very concerning to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do not have any other speaker slips, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, comment on items not on the agenda, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Kind folks from Outdoor Resorts, during public comments, council isn't allowed to respond and have a conversation back and forth, so I'm going to kind of change things around a little bit because we're going to go into council comments, and typically I have council have their comments before me, but I'm going to start off because I want to explain a couple things or share with you a couple things. That is my district where you all have your coaches and rigs in there, and we are doing things about it. We're keeping track of it. I just saw today, Charlie sent me 2 pages of every complaint that comes in from code compliance. We're monitoring it. We have been in touch with Dave, the COO of the complex there. He is really 100% committed to stopping this odor. I've talked to him. I see you're shaking your head, but I, whether you believe me or not, I can't help that. But he's committed to do it. He's bringing the new filters. Charlie, what else with some of the equipment was he bringing in there?
Well, I don't understand the technology exactly,
Yeah,
but
me
it's like
neither.
a misting system.
And we were told the same thing. That the technician the techniques are new and it's not going to get out, but it does get out. But actively, the city is working on it. You might not hear from us, but every day code compliance is out there. Every day we're monitoring it and we're doing our best. I know if it's not quick enough, I do apologize, sincerely apologize for that. But rest assured, we're taking this very serious. I for one, wouldn't want to live next to that or have to put up with that. At times I drive down Perez and I'll get a whiff of it coming from somewhere. And it's just so hard to pinpoint. But we are working with the COO there, and hopefully really soon we can have something done about it. But we are working on it. So I do apologize for this inconvenience, and I'm very, very sorry for that. So I'm going to move on to last week. I attended the league meeting in Long Beach. I'll let them leave it. There you go. And it was very interesting. Went to a couple classes there. Learned a lot. I was really impressed. A couple areas that I went to, they knew Justin from our code compliance, and they held him high regards for what he does in the code compliance, and he communicates with a lot of people there. Let's see, I got to calm down a little bit. I attended a homeless class. I got to tell you, folks, we're so far ahead. I listened to some moderators talk about what they're doing, and we're so far ahead, Chief. I mean, I'm thinking they're telling us to do things that you started 10 years ago or years ago that you brought here. So I don't think I'll be going to one of those classes again. But I did. Maybe I should do the moderation, help them out a little bit. But Councilmember Lamb and I attended a code compliance class. Really was interesting. We actually shared with them with the code compliance, because they still called it code enforcement, and we shared with them, hey, well, we use code compliance, and they really like that. It's the same. You get this job done. It's the same thing, but a kinder meaning there. So, and then what else? I attended a few more, and then I spoke with a couple developers last week on some construction. And you got to check out the rails along Ramon Road, starting at Landau going east. I like the color orange. Councilmember Gutierrez has some things about it, but
yeah, if you like Halloween. Yeah.
Well, I like Halloween. But I'm going to end it with that there. We're going to move right on to Councilmember Gutierrez, council report.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great. Since we last met, I attended the fire department pancake breakfast. It was well attended. They did a beautiful job putting the entire breakfast together. There was a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of residents. And if they put a restaurant up, the fire department will do great. Just listen to this. The food was delicious, the service was great, and the price was right. So go right ahead and put one up. You have competition now with the police department, who has one too as well. So great job. I met with a local business owner who needs guidance into expanding his business. I got him together with our economic director, Eric, and they're talking, and hopefully we're able to help him. I also attended the groundbreaking for the Desert Roadrunner motor groundbreaking ceremony. It took place last Wednesday, and it's a great facility that is going to not only help our teenagers or high school after our residents graduate from high school, they can actually attend this school and actually get a certificate. And the minute they graduate, they're going to be making between $30 to $40 an hour, which is a really good living wage. So it's nice that this facility will be opened. I believe they mentioned it's going to be opened for the fall of 2026. And I also had my meeting with our assistant city manager to go over tonight's agenda. And I also attended Battle of the Badges. It was a great event. Our chief was there, our fire chief was there. It was really well attended. The fights were incredible. The atmosphere was great, and I just can't wait to attend the next year again. A lot of those proceeds that they raise are actually they go for charities, so it's a good event. I also attended yesterday, along with our council member Rita Lamb here. We had a meeting with the Palm Springs Unified School District board members and superintendent. And this meeting, what we do, we get updated as to what's going on with the school district, with all the improvements they're doing in our schools. As a matter of fact, our Cathedral City received about $360 million that are being put into all the schools, from the high school to elementary to James Borkman and also Nellie Kaufman. So we're getting the bulk of all the money that is being actually invested into our schools here in Cathedral City. I also met with a local commercial property owner who needed a little bit of advice as to some tenants improvements that he's doing on his building, and was able to help him. And coming up before our next meeting, we have this coming Saturday, we have Halloween. Make sure that you bring your dog. We are having a dog costume contest at the Panorama Park. Antonio here puts it together. He does a beautiful job. Starts at 9 o'clock, and everyone is, they're going to be having small dogs and large dog contest, and also the look-alike owner and dog as well, correct? So that's going to be a fun one to watch. Come and see it. It's fun. And of course, on Sunday, we're going to have the Cathedral City Spectacular. This event brings kids from all over the entire Coachella Valley. Last year, I met a family that was here from actually Palm Desert. and they were so happy to come all the way from Palm Desert because they said that Palm Desert doesn't do enough for their kids like we do, for their families. So they travel from Palm Desert. And I also met a gentleman from Rancho Mirage, and he brings his grandkids also to the same event. He said he loves it, it's family friendly, and his grandkids, every single year, the first thing they want to do is come to Spectacular here in Cathedral City. So that's coming up this Sunday. It's starting at noon all the way to 3 o'clock. There's going to be a couple costume contests, and I believe 6 bikes are going to be given away. 3 different contests, 6 bikes are going to be given away. It's going to be well attended, lots of candy, so come on by. Bring your kids, your grandkids. Now, don't forget, November 3rd, it light savings, so make sure you don't forget to turn your clock forward. So it always screws me up when the time changes, so make sure that you don't forget that.
Fall back. You're not supposed to spring forward. You have to
Spring
fall
forward,
back.
fall behind. Okay, fall behind. So 5 o'clock is going to be 4 o'clock, correct?
Well, I don't know. It's just an hour back. It's not an hour forward.
And of course, Field of Valor is also going to be taking place coming up. What date does it start? Is it November? I believe it's the 8th, 9th? Oh, okay. And it's going to be going on at the corner of Dinosaur and Daypalm. Make sure you attend. They put up a beautiful ceremony for all of our fallen soldiers, and also the family members actually attend, and it's a beautiful thing that we can do. And also, don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 5th. It's a very special election. No matter what party you're polling for, just make sure you vote and participate. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
I just want to clarify one thing. Antonio, the look-alike, is the costume look-alike, or you got the dog face and the owner's face? Okay.
Who gets the prize?
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
I'm not doing that. Just saying straight up, I'm not doing that, Antonio. So sadly, I missed last meeting. In 4 years, I've missed 2 meetings, so I feel badly that I wasn't with you, but hopefully you can cut me a little bit of slack. I have had kind of a fun project over the last 2 months, and that has been visiting our gated communities. And alongside with me was Antonio Beishu was with me, as well as police and fire in their union positions. So no uniforms and no speaking for the city, speaking for their unions. And we've gone to these gated communities and taken questions and answers, and we brought lunch to each one of them, and it was better than I dreamed it would be. So that part's really good. I imagined, 15, 20 people. It wasn't unusual for 40, one time 50 people to come. So it was a good turnout. We were just short of about 500 people by the time we were all done. And that's always good to be able to reach out to that many people and be super cash. So, we didn't ask them questions. They only asked us questions. And 0 city dollars, not a penny came from the city. So it's one of those things that I'd like to maybe do annually or biannually, something like that. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. And you're just warmed by people's interest in the city, people wanting to know that we care about them and that we look out for them and that our fire department is going to bring that ambulance as soon as they can get it there, and our police are going to be sirens ablazing when they need their help. And you could just see that over and over and over with their willingness to have intimate dialogue and some of the really personal questions they asked and how they felt. And I'm sure Antonio felt the same way. I really appreciated your help each and every week. We were kind of a tag team, and it was I'm going to say it was the high point of my year so far. So thanks so much for participating in that. Thanks for police and fire representing their unions and coming out. And I'll look forward to doing that again. Thank you, Mayor.
You're very welcome. Councilmember Gregory.
So I think we've been hanging out together mostly because many of the things that have already been mentioned, I attended right after our last meeting, though, and I don't know if you mentioned it. The Sunline Transit Agency had their liquid hydrogen station ribbon cutting, and hopefully all of you know that our Mayor Pro Tem, Nancy Ross, is the chairperson at Sunline this year, and so she was kind of the mistress of ceremonies, I guess I would say. And and she did an excellent job in introducing and saying a few personal words about each of a lot of them were elected representatives or others, and it was actually quite a nice ceremony. The liquid hydrogen station, of course, is important to Sunline for their clean air operations as they run their hydrogen buses around. It also, though, is part of a network, and particularly along I-10, that could be used for other transportation, especially big rigs, those type of things, as they continue to be pushed, I guess, pushed over to be clean air vehicles. So it is quite an asset. I think it's a little bit of a hidden asset because it's not really ready to be, used by the public quite yet or rolled out. But I think it's going to end up being much more important and something that's going to be utilized much more in the future. It may not be this station; it may be other stations that are to follow. But that was a great event, and you did an excellent job, Mayor Pro Tem Ross, running that event. Also, along with the rest of the council, attended the College of the Desert's Roadrunner Motors groundbreaking that has already been shared. Again, another real asset to our community, and one that you as the community made happen after political forces to be canceled it a few years ago. It was really the community under the leadership of this council and staff that got that project back on track. It is on track. We have a much more reasonable COD board since then, and so we are starting to see the fruits of that, those long ago passed bond measures, and so it was very important for Cathedral City, for our valley, for the students, and for our community. So I'm glad everyone was able to attend. And then, as already been shared, the mayor and Councilmember Lamb and I, along with Charlie McClendon, our city manager, did attend the League of California Cities annual conference in Long Beach. I attended several classes. I actually ran into the city manager in a couple of classes, so we must have had some interesting or some similar interests. It seems like most of them I went to had a lot to do with land use, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the land use and the building and planning, but also economic development. In fact, some of them had to do with how those things so strictly tie together. So I actually found it quite interesting. There were also other leadership type speakers. I think that all of us attended some of those sessions, and I was able to do some mandatory training while I was there. So it was a time well spent in Long Beach. And then earlier this week, I did represent the city at the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Transportation Committee. This was an important meeting because they say every 5 or 10 years, although I think it's been like 13 years or something since the last time they did it, the Coachella Valley Association of Governments puts together a transportation project prioritization study. They call it TPPS. It's super important because when funding does become available, which is always scarce, it is those projects that are given priority for regional funding. So we're talking about big arterial projects, ramps, grade separations, those types of things. So this is just the kickoff of that. Since it is so important, all the cities recognize that. They were all there. They don't always make it to all those meetings. It was lively, shall I say that? Lively, a little bit political, but it was just the first. This is like a 2-year process to get this project going. Rest assured, I wasn't shy about talking about our needs, especially as we are a city that tends to have roadways that others use to pass through between us and other places. And we also have a very important roadway to the north of I-10 that's kind of been neglected over the years. That's an important safety pass through, and also is growing and growing in importance. They even built an arena on this road and didn't really do any long-term improvement. So there is, we are of course trying to make sure that roads like that, including that one, are given priority. My understanding is the next part of this process will move over to staff. So I believe probably John Corella will be directly involved with that, representing the city. He's also known to be very good at articulating the city's needs, so I anticipate that will be a good process, but it will continue. And much like the Roadrunner Motors process, unfortunately, there gets to be a little bit of east versus west in the Coachella Valley process, so we will try to make sure that doesn't rear its head as much as possible, and that it really is based on what's good for the entire Coachella Valley. But with that said, we are one of the very few regions, if not the only one, that actually does this for their region. A lot of times this type of funding is fought out for the whole county, and that would not be helpful for the Coachella Valley because the other end of the county is much more populated. So we are fortunate that CVAG takes on this process and that we're able to participate and have our voices heard. All right, already has been mentioned, although I think everything that I have down here has already been mentioned, but I do want to, of course, give an extra shout out for the Panorama Dog Park Halloween. I don't know if it was articulated. It's not Halloween, it's Halloween. Costume contest, so I look forward to that. That's again, starts at 9 o'clock on Saturday. I think you need to be there. If you're actually going to have your dog in the contest, you probably need to get there a little early so that you can make sure, well, first so you can show your dog off, and then also so that you can get registered. And I think the judging of the different types is spaced out, but it starts at 9 o'clock. And then at the next day on Sunday here at City Hall, the Spooktacular has already been covered with the great costume contest there and other fun. And I think 60,000, did I hear, pieces of candy that will be handed out. So I don't know how many toothbrushes, but that'll follow, I'm sure. So that will be on Sunday. So this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, plan to spend it in Cathedral City at the Panorama Dog Park on Saturday and at City Hall on Sunday. And then in early November, because of the way the calendar falls, we won't be meeting until it'll seem like mid-November again. So the first part of November, I know we have a number of events that are coming up on the Saturday the 2nd, there will be an unveiling of the Ocotillo Park benches. There's an item a little later on the agenda, I know, that talks about that, and a little bit of a festival going on, so plan on that if you're available that Saturday. It's also Palm Springs Pride Weekend, so many of us are involved in a number of organizations that have events during that weekend. So, and then the parade will be that Sunday the 3rd, and Cathedral City will be in the first 100 floats, I'm told, in the Palm Springs Pride Parade. That's always a fun time down in Palm Springs, and I know many of my fellow council members and city staff will be participating in that. So make sure you watch that. And then, as has already been mentioned, we will have the Field of Valor coming up at Patriot Park. All of that information is available on DiscoverCathedralCity.com. So be sure and check it out. Don't miss some of these great events. And then we'll be back in mid-November, where no doubt we'll be talking about the Cathedral City International Hot Air Balloon Festival that'll be occurring later in the month. So if you haven't gotten that on your calendar and tickets to the Leanne Rimes concert, this is time to do it right now before it gets to the last minute. And with that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you so much. We've all been so busy. Make sure here. I wanted to follow up on the Cal Cities Conference in Long Beach, and in addition to all that's been mentioned, I was able to stop by the booth it was called the Institute for Local Government, and we all get text messages from them and have an opportunity for their trainings. And they recently had a symposium Zoom meeting with great speakers about how to build community. And one of the things they talked about was they have scheduled an 8-week course for residents with the county and the city officials doing an 8-week course on, the first one is on finance, the second one is on planning, and then they take a field trip around the city to find out where these different venues are and what's been happening, and for instance, the building of the Ophelia Bringus Bridge, and that was just in the works. So it was a great way to hear about how another community informs the residents and empowers the residents so they can have the best quality of life that they can. So anyway, it was a great opportunity, and I got to meet all a couple of the speakers that were there at the booth. So it was great fun. And I too attended Battle in the Desert. It was well attended, and congratulations to the police department and the police association and all those who worked in it, because it's a great venue for our residents. They totally loved it. It was action packed. And with the COD groundbreaking, I had a chance to walk out with interim president Laura Hope, and I just read in the paper and talked with her. She is not going to be returning. However, she's going to stay through June while they do the interview for the new president search. So she's done a wonderful job, and her listening tour has certainly been another way that really identifies and illustrates for the entire community how we all work together. So, I'm sorry to see her go, and I'm glad that we have her till June. We all participate in different commissions throughout the city, and I'm the chairperson this year of the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy, and I don't know if you saw it in the paper or heard about it, but the Conservancy, this is called a land back return, and we returned 320 acres to the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians, and it was just a beautiful ceremony, and it was attended by Chair Reed Milanovich and the president of the California Natural Resources Agency, Wade Crowfoot, and it was in the Agua Caliente Cultural Center. So it was just a great opportunity, and the hat's off to Elizabeth King, who's our new executive director, and Diana Rosas, the administrative person who put this all together. And our parting statement is that we hope we can, partner and collaborate and do more of this in the years to come. So it was just a great event. I too attended the Palm Springs Unified School District, and I had a chance to walk out with Karen Cornett and Sergio Espericueta, who are on the school board, and they didn't see us at the homecoming parade, and I, explained to her that it was a scheduling conflict with the California Cities Conference, and so anyway, they didn't know that, and we've always been there, and are so supportive of the high school. So that was anyway, that was good. And this morning I had a chance to meet with, along with Ann Ambrose and Eric, and is it Besserell? Is that how you? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. He's our new Director of Economic Development, and we met with the marketing department of our Cathedral City Auto Center. And, our hope is that we can elevate the resources that we already have in our community, and our theme is to shop local. So this was the first overture we had where we all got together to talk about how we can elevate our auto center and how the city can participate in that, knowing it's such a valuable resource for it. So it was a great conversation, great fun, and great to see everybody again. I think that's it. And I had this. We've already mentioned Spooktacular, but I went to Target, our local Cathedral City Target. Okay, so Spooktacular, you have to be there on Sunday. We have lots of fun. My husband says I can't wear this every day. I'm a hat person, so just for tonight. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, well, I'll continue posing. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda items?
Yes, Mayor. Item 4A is to waive full reading of ordinances on the agenda. Item 4B is to approve the October 9th, 2024 study session and regular City Council meeting minutes. Item 4C is to receive and file claims and demands for September 2024. Item 4D is to reject all bids received for the construction of the Highway Safety Improvements Program, HSIP Cycle 9A, traffic signal improvements at 12 intersections, Project C08752. Item 4E is to accept and approve the notice of completion for the Via Dianza Street Improvement Project, Phase 3, CIP number 8841. Item 4F is to accept the California Office of Traffic Safety Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant in the amount of $55,000. Item 4G is to appoint Sunshine Herrera to fill a vacant seat on the Mobile Home Fair Practices Commission. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Do we have any public comment?
I did not receive any requests to speak forms, so if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment, please raise your hand, and I see none.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move approval.
A second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Please vote. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have the option? There we go. And motion carries all ayes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's no public hearings, legislative actions, ribbon cutting event for the Ocotillo Bench Project, and sponsorship of the Scrap Gallery Dia de los Muertos event. Do we have a staff report, City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, Ann Ambrose will give this. She's the staff liaison to the Public Arts Commission, and these are requests to spend funds from their already authorized general fund budget. Ann.
Regular meeting on October 8th, the commission considered two budget items for funding out of their general fund budget. The first being a ribbon cutting event for the Ocotillo Bench Project, and the second, a sponsorship request from the Scrap Gallery for the November 2nd Dia de los Muertos event at Desert Memorial Park. The first item, I think as most of you know, the Public Arts Commission facilitated a project this year in which it ended up being 23 of 25 artists painted the 25 benches at Ocotillo Park. And those benches are now painted. And what the commission would like to do, and this has been in partnership with the Pace Commission, is to have a little ribbon cutting and a little event to celebrate this new amenity at the park, to celebrate the artists that contributed to it, and just have an opportunity to bring the community together. The event, if funded, is scheduled on Saturday, November 2nd from 3 to 5. So this would be after the Dia de los Muertos event at the Memorial Park. So opportunities to attend both events that day. The planned activities that they're proposing with the funding would be doing a ribbon cutting, a self-directed walking tour of the benches, and we will have signs at each of the benches with the artist's statement about their bench in both English and Spanish. There will be a QR code that will be on the signs so that if somebody, and we'll have that available on our website as well, if somebody goes to that, there'll be a GIS mapping, story mapping of going through the park and seeing the benches and getting information about the artists and about the pieces. We have a plan for a food truck, free paletas from La Michoacana, and some live music, and one of the artists has offered to do some rock paintings with the kids so that the kids can be involved in something. So the proposed budget for this is $1,668, which includes the use of PA system, the purchase of the paletas, the food truck permit, and any other incidentals. So this would be a not to exceed amount.
And on the La Michoacana, it's a flat 500. Is it an amount of ice cream he's providing? Or?
What we're looking at doing, that is just kind of what we budgeted that we'll purchase up to that amount.
Okay, so when it's gone, it's gone,
yeah,
that type of thing.
And
okay,
have that available. And then the second event is a request from the Scrap Gallery for the Dia de los Muertos event. This is Saturday, November 2nd from 11 to 3.
And the Scrap Gallery does this annually in partnership with the Desert Memorial Park and the Palm Springs Unified School District to host this free event, which is really quite a beautiful event at the park. I had the opportunity to go last year. And the Public Arts Commission has previously sponsored the art supplies for the student art contest and the art stations at the event where our youth can participate in creating different art projects. The proposed budget and request for this sponsorship is $750 for art supplies for the student art exhibit, $500 in supplies for the day of the event, and $250 for installation materials, bringing that total to $1,500. So if both of these requests are approved by the council tonight, the total impact will be $3,218, as we said, which is expended out of the commission's general fund program budget. They currently have $9,513 available, and so if both items are approved, this would give them a remaining budget till the end of this fiscal year of $6,295. These two events go towards our strategic goals of creating an embracing, inclusive community and promoting additional community events and celebrations. And so therefore, it's staff's recommendation that the City Council approve the recommendations submitted by the Public Arts Commission. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions? I don't see any up here. Is there any public comments?
I did not receive any request to speak forms. So if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment, please raise your hand. And I see none.
Do I have a motion? We have a
motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote.
I don't have a vote.
your screen's not working.
My screen's not working.
Mayor Pro Tem, are you having issues?
Well,
Would you like to verbalize your vote?
I say I have issues, but I think the computer does.
You want to express your votes, and I can put it here on the screen?
I would say aye, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Motion carries. All ayes.
Christine, if you could come back up and get her screen back, that'd be great.
Somehow I'm joining a Zoom meeting
Okay,
now.
award.
I'm not sure what's happening. I hope it's interesting, whatever it is.
Award agreement for design professional services to Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. for the Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, Cycle 11A, 18 unsignalized intersection upgrades project. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a grant-funded project. Mostly, we have a small 20% match in this, which has been budgeted, and Armando Baltizone, our city engineer, will present this item to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council members. This is a award agreement for design professional services to Kimley Horn for the HSIP Cycle 11A project, 18 unsignalized intersection upgrade project. So the Highway Safety Improvement Program is a federal aid program that funds local safety projects. The purpose of the program is to reduce fatalities on local streets, and funding is available to municipalities on a 2-year cycle call for projects, and also the projects are selected through a competitive process. For the HSIP Cycle 11, the HSIP Cycle 11 was released on March 2022 by the California Department of Transportation. The city submitted 4 applications on September 2022, and on March 2023, Caltrans approved all 4 Cathedral City applications for this funding. In this specific case, the Cycle 11A is a 90-10 grant participation. The total estimated project amount was $1.4 million, and the HSIP funds are a little over $1.3 million. On February 2024, Caltrans authorized the city to proceed with the preliminary engineering phase for all projects. All projects are listed in this slide. Specifically, this presentation is for HSIP Cycle 11A. that are the citywide pedestrian crosswalk upgrades. The vicinity maps shows the 18 locations that were identified in the local road safety plan, in the city local road safety plan. Just 2 examples, the existing conditions of Perez Road, west of Kiley Road, facing eastbound. The proposed improvement in these intersections will have LED lighting near the commercial area, ADA compliant curb ramps, high visibility crosswalks, rapid flashing beacons, and advanced warning signs and pavement markings. Another example of the HSIP 11A is the intersection of 30th Avenue west of Travis Avenue. So the proposed improvements in these projects are the LED safety lighting near school zone, ADA compliant curb ramps, traffic control signage, and pavement markings. City staff prepared the request for qualification and proposals for the design phase. This RFP was advertised in Desert Sun on August 29 and September 4th of this year, and was posted on the city website from August 29 to September 19. 6 proposals were received by staff. These are the 6 companies. Kim Horn and Associate was the selected company and is in bold in this slide. The consultant selection was evaluated and scored by engineering and public works staff. We used for the evaluation the federal protocols that we are required to do for the selection of the consultants. Kim Horn was determined the most qualified consultant to do this project according to their proposal, cost and work proposal. The scope of proposal, Kim Horn will provide services from preliminary research, environmental compliance. The CEQA will complete the process with plans, specification, and cost estimates, and then we continue assisting the city with the bidding assistance and construction support. The fiscal impact for the design shows that this project will be funded with the amount of $187,197 for the HSIP grant fund, and we will use traffic safety fund in the amount of $41,599 for a total amount of $228,797. This project aligned with our 5-year strategic plan, the goal B, the community investment, and the objective. And staff is requesting the City Council to award a professional service agreement to Kim Horn in the amount of $207,997 to prepare the plan specification, right-of-way and environmental documents, approve a 10% contingency in the amount of $20,799 for unforeseen design-related expenses, for a total amount of $228,797, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. That concludes my report. Back to you, Mayor.
Okay, council, any questions? I see no.
Just congratulations on getting such a nice meeting.
Yes, and getting this step in, and then many of these are near schools or related to schools, so it's good, always good to see improvement in walkability safety for our children and others accessing the schools. Thank you.
I agree, and on Landau, you got 3 lights right there, because Landau gets to be like a freeway, so this was. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
I just wanted to add one clarification. So on Terrace and Cathedral Canyon, so that's the little logo pictures. It's the ADA ramp and pedestrian walk.
Correct. It's the pedestrian crossings, and
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms. But if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment, please raise your hand. I see none.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second,
I apologize, I did not hear the mover.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, so we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Mayor Pro Tem Ross. I'm sorry, we have a motion by Councilmember Lamb, is that correct?
No, it's my motion. It's my motion.
And actually, I seconded.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
All for it.
And a
That's
second
important.
by Councilmember Gregory. Please vote. Motion carries, all ayes. My apologies.
Item C, award agreement for design professional services to STC Traffic, Inc. for the HSIP Cycle 11B signalized pedestrian crossing upgrades project. And it hits Cycle 11D, 30th Avenue and San LJ Avenue pedestrian crossing upgrades project C08757. City Manager, we have a staff report.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, thank you. This is 2 more pedestrian improvement projects funded by the same grant that you just saw the presentation on. And Andrew Lee, our engineer from the engineering department, will present this item. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. Tonight, I'll be presenting the recommendation to award an agreement for design services to STC Traffic, Inc. for ASIP Cycle 11B and 11D projects. So to start off with the background, in March of 2022, Caltrans released the call for projects. The city submitted 4 applications in September of 22, and in March of 23, Caltrans approved all 4 of Cathedral City's applications. The 2 projects that we'll be discussing tonight in this presentation is the ASIP Cycle 11B, which the total project amount was just over $1 million, with 90% of that coming from ASIP funding, and ASIP Cycle 11D, total project amount just over $250,000. In February 2024, Caltrans authorized the city to proceed with the preliminary engineering phase. So as mentioned, the topic of tonight's discussion for this presentation is ASIP Cycle 11B, signalized pedestrian crossings, and the 2 locations there, and ASIP 11D, school pedestrian crossing upgrades. So first, reviewing the ASIP Cycle 11B project. The 2 locations are shown on this vicinity map. The first location will be 30th Avenue and Avenida La Paz near Landau Elementary School. And the second location will be Cathedral Canyon Drive and Ortega. So 2 photos, or a couple photos in the next slides showing the existing conditions. Here shows 30th Avenue and Avenida La Paz. There you can see the existing crossing that will be upgraded. And again, the existing crossing at Cathedral Canyon Drive and Ortega Road. The proposed improvements include upgrading those 2 crossings to a high-intensity activated crosswalk, or a HAWK crossing. An example of this can be shown on the right. That example is taken from Dinosaur Drive and Via de Anza, which has been proven to be successful in reducing amount of illegal crossings.
Takes a little while for people to get used to it. A
Yeah.
couple months, and then they've got it, right? I live right there, so I know.
Yes. Now moving on to our ASIP Cycle 11D project. Vicinity map shown here. The location will be at 30th Avenue and San LJ Drive, right next to James Workman Middle School. Shown on this slide is the existing 4-way stop intersection. And the proposed improvements include upgrading the ramps, increased signage, as well as the curb bulb outs shown here, which reduces the length of travel for pedestrians. So the city staff requested proposals from design consultants from August 29th to September 19th. The RFP was advertised in the Desert Sun and the city website. The city received six proposals, and STC Traffic from Carlsbad, California was determined to be the top-ranked company. So for the selection process, proposals were evaluated by the engineering and public works staff. The panel used state and federal evaluation protocols and determined that STC Traffic was the most qualified. The cost proposal is within the amount allocated by the ASIP grant and for services rendered.
May I just ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you just have like a rubric? And you just go through and you make sure everybody meets
Yeah.
the criteria?
So-
Is that what it's just the same rubric for each person?
Yeah, actually, the rubric is provided for every consultant in the RFP itself, and it outlines what you will receive points for, and that's what we use. So SCC Traffic will provide the following design services for ASIP cycles 11B and 11D, and it includes the preliminary research, environmental documents, plans, specifications, cost estimates, as well as assisting with the bidding process and coordination with utility companies. Shown on this slide is the fiscal impact for ASIP cycle 11B. You can see the ASIP cycle 11B amount in the amount of $94,500, and the local match in the amount of $20,315 for a total of $114,815. And similarly here for ASIP cycle 11D, see the amount funded from the ASIP grant as well as the local match coming from the traffic safety fund. This item aligns with Goal B, community investments. And city staff is requesting that the city council award a professional services agreement to SCC Traffic for ASIP cycle 11B and 11D projects, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Mayor.
That's great. Sounds good. Any questions from council?
Same as last one, great improvements for safety, especially for schools.
Public comments?
Mayor, I did not receive any requests to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none.
I have a motion.
Move approval.
We had two that made the second. Can we clarify? Councilmember Lamb? Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote. Motion carries, all ayes.
Okay, next we have the local hazard mitigation plan and emergency operation plan. City manager, do we have a staff report?
Thank you. I'm pleased to present this one as well. This is yet another example of grant funding being put to good use to the betterment of our community. This will provide funding to upgrade our, to develop new local hazard mitigation plan and emergency operation plan, and this is the contract award. Chief Contreras.
Honorable Mayor and Council, as you know, this has been a long journey. It's been almost 2 years since we started this process, going after the grants, identifying the need to upgrade our local hazard mitigation plan and emergency operations plan. So when I originally got here, within about a month, I realized that both of those at that time were going to expire pretty quick. The keynote in this is we were able to qualify for grant funding, both FEMA and OES, during the Hillary storm because we had updated plans. So when we look at, or when we did our analysis, we had to understand that we needed one sooner than later because as of today, both our local hazard mitigation plan and our emergency operation plan are both out of date. Just a quick overview. The local hazard mitigation plan is really about identifying what our hazards are in the city, the resources, the capabilities, and what we can do within the city. The emergency operations plan takes a look at the procedures. Like once we have those disasters, what are we going to do as a city to address those as they come? So that's kind of the difference between the two. We did successfully get a grant, and the council accepted it about a month and a half ago. It was 3 separate grants. It was $149,631 that was awarded by FEMA. $49,877 was awarded by OES. And then we got a separate kind of administrative fees to help with the application process from FEMA for $7,896 was to cover staff time. That was the totality of the grant. The difference here is we really have to look at the $199 when we look at what do we have available to spend. We did post the RFP. We created an RFP of what we needed both of these documents to include. We posted it up on the city's website and additionally sent it out to a list of vendors that had expressed interest. The 4 proposals we received were the 4 on the screen. We put together an evaluation panel of city staff, both police, fire, and public works, and came up with this criteria, 7 different criteria that we graded on a 1 to 10 scale. The first was the firm's experience specifically with local hazard mitigation plan. Have they done these? Have they done one, or have they done quite a few of them? The firm's size, structure, and resources, right? So was it just one person that was going to have to do it all, or did they have different people throughout their organization to be able to support both an EOP and a local hazard mitigation plan? The qualifications of the firm, qualifications of the firm's team members. So they created resumes of everybody that was going to work specifically on our project, and we looked at their qualifications. The adequacy of the proposed staffing plan. That became really important because both of ours are out of date. We needed to get them moving as fast as possible. And one of the things that we looked at was there the ability to run these parallel in creating them and delivering them. The thoroughness of the proposal for the local hazard mitigation plan. And one of the things, we graded it equally, but played a big factor in this was the commitment to their timelines. So were they able to, and I just talked about being able to run parallel paths. There was definitely one that stood out that was able to do both. But based on that criteria, we came down and we did a round 2 of evaluations. So after we evaluated that, the 2, Jacob Green and Associates and Dynamic Planning and Science, were the finals that we took at and looked at cost. The cost, when we broke those down, we chose by a significant amount. Jacob Green and Association was chosen with ended up being the highest score in both categories. Not only what we needed, but also to meet our financial needs. There was no, since you've already accepted the grant, there will be no financial impact as these grants were already accepted. So the project as a whole will be $188,140, and that's both for the local hazard mitigation plan and for the emergency operations plan. That leaves us a little bit, it's a little over 5% contingency. What we did, 2 things we did is we followed up with their references, and I think it was called 3 separate references, and not one of them said that they went over what their agreed upon price was. The other thing that we looked at in talking to Jacob Green, we wanted to make sure that they could deliver on both, and they could deliver on both almost simultaneously. So the EOP and the local hazard mitigation plan, the timeline is 35 weeks. Simultaneously, they'll be working on the EOP, which will be 33 weeks. So they'll both be done within 35 weeks. Then we're going to go on to the training. So now we have these plans. As you know, the city's emergency operations center is at fire admin headquarters. So the second piece of this.
That's a question for you. So are these 2 going to run parallel? Or are they going to complete one and complete another?
No, they're going to run parallel. So one would be done 2 weeks before the other
I
one.
knew that they were the same amount of time, but I didn't know if they had the bandwidth to do them at the same time.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that was in the evaluation criteria, was did they have that? And we did follow up, because that's what they put in their proposal. We did follow that up with a call and just clarified that they were able to do them both. Yep. And then the last piece that is included in here is the training for not only council, senior staff, and other members of the city. We're going to be doing and I want to make sure I get my numbers right. We're going to be doing over 30 hours of training on 6 different exercises. So it'll be, here's the introduction to Emergency Operations Center, what's your role as each of the council, each of the senior staff. So we see sometimes those funny vests we wear in there. What are you going to do? If you're assigned this, what are your duties? Then they do a simulated drill. Then we'll move to the next. And so at the end of this, we will not only have the EOP and the LHMP, but we'll have a highly trained city staff, both at the senior level, council, senior level, and within staff. So that was when, as we were putting the RFP together, I think that's, a lot of people have these plans, but do they exercise them? And that's one thing as the fire chief and talking to the city manager, we felt very strong about, is that it's not good just to have it, we need to be able to exercise it. So this proposal provides for that. This does meet the city's strategic plan goal of safety within the city. The objective of Cathedral City is a safe for all who live, work, and play in our community. And action number 4, to strengthen the city's ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters by reviewing and updating the city's emergency operations plan through annual training sessions and tabletop exercises. The recommendation is to approve the contract award to Jacob Green and Associates to create and update the city's local hazard mitigation and emergency operations plan. Questions?
Okay. Councilmember Gregory.
So, thank you for your presentation. So, I realize as I'm looking through this now, again, after I looked through it before, a couple of things. Well, one of them, it says to approve a contract award, but there's no contract in our packet. So, when will a contract be drawn up?
I will get with finance. The contract, as we broke it down and as it sits, it's for the 180. The contract itself, I'll get with finance.
Okay, because we made a kind of a policy not to approve contracts that we have not seen.
Okay.
So I'm sorry if I'd realized that before the meeting, I would have, of course, brought that to the attention of the city manager. But while that's being done, on the first page of their proposal, this is undoubtedly a typo, but it says that they're gonna draw up this using a wealth of knowledge on the project, and they're committed to developing the LHMP that reflects Irwindale's distinct characteristics and meets the requirements of state and federal regulations.
I would imagine that is a typo.
Throughout the rest, it appears to say Cathedral City over and over again, but right there on the first page, it says Irwindale's. And again, if I'd realized this before the meeting, I would have brought it up. But since there is no contract, I thought, I'll see what it says in the contract. But there's no contract in here, so.
Sorry about that. We'll get it taken care of.
So, City Attorney, do you have a suggestion how we handle this?
Unmute my mic. Thank you. I suggest you continue this until such time as you can attach the contract for you to review.
All right, I move that we continue this matter until what time as the contract is ready to be presented to us for approval.
I'll have it ready by the next meeting. Thank you.
Well, I would need a second. I'm just making a motion. So. Looks like Mayor Pro Tem has seconded that continuance.
Mayor Pro Tem, second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Ross to table this item. Please vote. Motion carries all
Did you
ayes.
get the motion clearly, what he wrote?
Sorry, Mayor?
Do you want?
To continue, not to approve, but to continue.
I'm sorry, to continue to the next meeting. I apologize.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear, right? Thank you, Chief.
Motion carries all ayes.
Thank you.
All right, and my apologies again if I had noticed, I had brought all that up before the meeting, so.
I think she's calculating votes now. Okay, it all passed.
Motion carries all ayes. Thank you.
We saved the best for last. The preliminary financial resorts, do we have a staff report on that, Charlie?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This will give you a report on where we ended the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2024, and a little bit of a look ahead to the future. So we ended on a good note, primarily because some expenses didn't come through that we thought would, which means those will fall into the next year. So the good news is we had savings last year. The bad news is those expenses will carry over to this year, so it's going to be reflected this year. But Kevin Biersack will go over all of that with you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and thank you, Mayor, because we did save the best for last, so we appreciate that. So Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City staff, as the City Manager said, and we come to you usually this time frame, the second meeting in October, and provide you with the preliminary financial results. And for the listening audience, that's because we are still in audit mode. We've had the on-site audit, remote audit work, but now we're preparing the financials, and we have the back and forth with our auditors. So we will be providing them a draft by the 4th of November, and the goal is to have the financials completed by the 15th of December. So that's the mode that we're in right now. So you've seen this kind of slide before. Where do we get our money from? So let's talk about the good news. Taxes, licenses, permits, services and fees, and miscellaneous revenues. And you can see from this chart that once again, 75%, we are dependent upon taxes in our city, being the kind of city, the young city that we are. The next couple slides will detail what those numbers actually look like from a budget to actual. And forgive me, as usual, please ask questions as we go along or save them for the end. So let's look at the bulk. Let's look at the 72%, the taxes. Our budget was $51.7 million, and we came in at almost $50.2 million. And you can see from top to bottom, with respect to high down to low, with respect to what that budget is and what those actuals were. Licenses, permits, and other revenue sources. This is where we made up for what we didn't have on the previous slide, and then some, as they say. Services and fees, licenses and permits, miscellaneous revenues and transfers, intergovernmental, so on and so forth. If you can take your eyes to the bottom, you all have heard about the American Rescue Plan Act on previous occasions. So this is really we have one little final tranche next year, and it's about just under $700,000. But we came in at $5.5 million this year. And so that's that $15.3 million that we received and knew that we were going to get back as a result of the American Rescue Plan Act. So we have to report on that quarterly. This was our 14th quarter that we reported on. And so like I say, we're right under $700,000 remaining. Something to note on that, those monies have to be obligated by the end of December. If we do not obligate those monies, they will be gone, whatever is left over. We just obligated $326,000 from the quarter that ended September 30th, so we will have to ensure we obligate the rest at the end of December, which means the end of January, because we do reporting within 30 days after the quarter ends. So when you look at the I'm sorry, yeah, and all the other revenue. I thought I skipped a slide, my apologies. So when you look at everything, when all is said and done, we came in $2 million above, $2.2 million above, due in part to COVID, due in part to the ARPA money, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you can see, based on the numbers, taxes, licenses, permits, services and fees, miscellaneous revenues and transfers, $67 million versus $69 million. We'd like to show this chart. This kind of complements the first pie chart, but in a different format. Of where our revenues come from, and you can see them broken out if you'd like a bar chart versus a pie chart. So moving on, let's talk about expenditures, and there's a few things to say about expenditures here in the upcoming slides. Bottom line, you'll look at that and you'll go, well, something's crazy because we had a budget of $40 million on salaries and benefits, and we only spent 36 plus. Operations, yay, operations, we had a budget of $32 million and $30 million plus. One of the things to keep in mind, we budget for being fully staffed. When we are not fully staffed, what is that? That's a vacancy. Vacancies, we end up not spending as much money. And when all was said and done, based on our vacancies and what transpired throughout the year with the comings and goings, because life is different post-COVID than it was pre-COVID, I'm sure y'all are aware just from a staffing standpoint. We had over $3 million worth of savings, if that's what you want to call it, because of unspent salary and benefit dollars. So attributable just to the vacancies. Because we also have the opportunity separate from the vacancies, what we budget at versus what somebody might come in at when we hire someone. So I just wanted to share that with respect to an understanding of the difference between why we were so low, as one would say, from an actual standpoint on salary and benefits. That's the primary reason. Let's look at departments from a budget versus an actual standpoint. And you can see for the various departments that we have, whether it's elected officials, legal, that's general legal services, because anything that's assignable to an individual department will go to that department. City management, which includes not just the city manager, the assistant city manager, it includes human resources, city clerk, communications and events. This past year, it included economic development in the year that we're closing out, and it also includes IT, information technology. Risk management always comes in at 100% budget to actual because it's a monthly allocation, and 12 times whatever that monthly is, we get a full number. Development services was the title tied to the end of the year, and that's what will be in our ACFR. We have a new name. Andy is now, his organization is Community and Economic Development. Engineering and Public Works, and we have a new name for that, Public Works. Police, fire, and general government. General government being that which is not assignable to a specific department. So you can see this is how the numbers stack up in the breakout for that 72 mil versus the 67 million. So we came in at 92%. There, I think I did do a double hit. Another stackable chart, and let's talk a little bit about this stack. Staff labor, that ties back to the people in this room and then some, the people in all of our facilities that support our constituents. To include you, because your labor is in there as well, because you are employees. So we have the staff labor. Then we also have, look at the next two, because it's something to point out. You can first look at that, or the listening audience can look at it and say, well, your staff labor is only about 55%, but we do contract out. We contract out for maintenance and operations. We contract out for professional services. So tied to that, for example, in the Public Works Department, when we contract out, when the general fund pays for professional services for an engineering task, that it comes under professional services. So when you look at the first three colors of this bar chart, you get to about 84% when all is said and done with respect to staff labor, maintenance and operations, and professional and technical services. It just reinforces we do not produce widgets. We produce services. Services for our constituents, services for our general public. So coming back to the slide you saw a few slides before, we did add another column here for you so that you could spell it out just a little bit more. The budget with respect to the revenue and the expenses, the actual charges with respect to what we actually incurred, but then we did want to point out that ARPA element, because not only did we have a $2.2 million surplus, but when you take away ARPA, one could say, well, you had a $3.3 million deficit. The fortunate thing about that $3.3 million deficit, look around at our year, look at what happened to our year in our city. A lot of one-time monies. For example, Tropical Storm Hillary, probably the biggest ticket item. The fortunate thing on Tropical Storm Hillary, what we thought was going to be required when we had to contract out all the debris removal tied to the mud, it didn't come in as high. And because it didn't come in as high, that's part of why we have a surplus. overall because we came in more than $1 million under on that job. And with respect to the Public Works Department working with their vendor and getting all that dirt cleared and what they thought the amount of dirt was going to be versus what it actually ended up being. But we did have a lot of one-time monies with respect to that. So on the surface, when you take the ARPA away, it could look like we have a structural deficit, but I did want to point out, and that's why we have reserves. And a little anecdotal story. Last week I sat in a webinar that was through the League of Cities, and it was 1 hour. And there were 3 cities that tied back to navigating fiscal conditions in these times, post-COVID. Battle Creek, Michigan, Madison, Wisconsin, and Newport News. Now, Newport News, Virginia. Now, when you look at those 3 cities, they're larger cities than us. But what was interesting, and we'll be feeding into this because we'll be tying back to our where we ended in our next 2 years of projections, they were talking along the lines of having reserves as 8%, 15%, and 22%. I sat at my desk and I was shocked. Look at us. And they're substantial cities. So we collectively should take pride in that. And don't tie the numbers, because I'm not saying the numbers were accordingly with the cities, because I'm an old man and I don't remember who had the 8% and who had the 15% and who had the 22%. But I was shocked. So we collectively should be proud of where we're at today. A couple new slides you haven't seen before, but we wanted to be able to tie back to adding and sharing with you on the revenue side where we stand with respect to comparison to last year. So once again, this first slide is that 72% of taxes, and it can give you a flavor of last year versus this year with respect to sales tax, use tax went down a little bit. Property tax up. And property tax should increase, as you all know, because as we defease those old RDA bonds, our property tax should go up. The in lieu vehicle license fee, generally speaking, goes up every year, $400,000 to $500,000 on average. TOT went down. Full year of no short-term rentals in certain kinds of neighborhoods. So we're at about 1/3 of our STVR permits that we were at the height of where we were. We did see gravitation to our hotels and motels, and we saw a lot of that in 23, but in 24, it wasn't quite as much. So, but that's the primary impact on the TOT. UUT, more rooftops. And guess what? Look at your electric bill. Your electric bill is running a little bit higher. Well, with it running a little bit higher, we get 5% tax on that. So thank you very much for that, paying that higher electric bill.
I'd rather have a lower electric bill.
I'm sorry, 3%. Thank you, Charlie. We went to the voters and way back when. I'm sorry, it's 3% and 2.5% on cell phone with respect to telecommunications. Thank you. We wanted it to be 5% back in 2008 when we went to the voters, but we didn't. We only went with 3%. Good catch. Cannabis a little bit lower than where we were, more lower than our peak, but we've been down the path of where the cannabis industry is right now and had that discussion. Other revenue, and yes, and we did lower taxes. And so this was a full year, council member, thank you. This was a full year of those lower taxes versus the year before, when it was 2/3 of the year was the higher tax and 1/3 of the year was the lower tax. Other revenue, you can see the same kind of thing with respect to the different types of this year versus last year. Services and fees, up. And if you remember, the services and fees are comprised of license and permits and fees. And hey, we've done great with the ambulance world. I mean, our revenues are, number one, well above budget because we had them budgeted lower. And we hit our highest number we've ever hit with respect to ambulance fees at 3.5 mil. That's a good thing. Licenses and permits, just a little bit off. Property and interest, intergovernmental, citations, our miscellaneous revenues, and then the ARPA, the COVID-19 assistance. And we've discussed that that's coming to an end. So let's talk about the fun stuff. Our projections. The first column basically ties back to finishing the year. So we began the year with a general fund balance of 39 mil. With that 2.2 million, we come in at 41.5 mil. Which, pointing out, 5.5 of that came from ARPA, but it's still the same 41.5. So, but look at that. Our minimum fund balance reserve policy is 33%. So we're finishing this year at 62%. Due in part to the fact that we have things that, in a couple slides later, we had things that we didn't finish in this year, they're general fund funded, so we're going to be asking you to roll those forward. But it's kind of like we had a higher fund balance at the end of the year for that amount, which is under $400,000. So it's not huge in respect to these kind of numbers. But 400,000 under last year, and we're just asking to roll that forward. So we'll get to that in a bit. But 62%, we're finishing the year at 62% of fund balance tied to our expenditures of overall. Our original budget this year, when you use that same 41 million as the beginning position, we had an adopted budget of revenues at 64.6 with a $70.4 million expenditure budget that you all adopted last May. And so we were forecasting a $5.8 million deficit. That would bring our general fund balance down based on that adopted budget down to 35.6 with respect to the general fund balance, but still above our 50% when all is said and done. So at 51%. But now let's look at the projection. And there, we have some notes down at the bottom, and I'll point some of that out on the projected column. Same starting position of 41.5, but if you notice, the revenues went up slightly because we do have some revenue coming in that wasn't part of the original budget for land up next to the Salvation Army that we're renting to the school district. But from an expenditure standpoint, we are making a sizable investment in increased expenditures. That's why we have reserves. For example, back in June, you all approved the contract to be able to dig out all the dirt out of the Whitewater River because we need to get underneath those two bridges, Cathedral Canyon and Date Palm, and we need to be able to get into those water control structures and see if there was any damage done. We have that as a claim in our FEMA mode right now, and that's something that's identified as a project with our FEMA. We meet with FEMA every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and we review these different project things. We'll be coming to you in the subsequent on the future council meeting agendas. We'll be coming to you with respect to giving you an update on where we stand with respect to the FEMA claims. It is a process. It is quite the process, and we meet weekly. Every once in a while we don't meet, but we meet at least 3 out of 4 based on the FEMA representatives' availability. So that's an example. Another example, you all made the decision this past year to put almost $2.5 million into Esperanza Park because the grant was $8.5 million, and in the end it's going to be an $11 million park. It'll be a great park for the Dream Homes neighborhood. But the Esperanza Park, that's another example. Insurance, almost a year ago I came to you with respect to increased insurance costs and asked you to approve that for last year. And at that same meeting we said, well, if it's increased to that, they're not going down. And so you approved for that to be an increase for this year. So those are the 3 primary reasons of why 70 million became 78 million from a budgetary standpoint. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So when you go down the column and you look at the $685,000 remaining with ARPA, it looks like we could have a deficit of over $11 million this year. Will we have a deficit of over $11 million? I don't think so. Case in point, a few slides back when we talked about salary and benefits. We have vacancies here at the city. We recruit. Are there as many vacancies as there were a year ago? Probably not, but it's not too much lower with respect to that. And so when you add that up, we're probably going to have salary and benefit savings this year, just like we had last year. And I think it will be in the $2.5 to $3 million range that we'll have when all is said and done. But we have to give you what we have budgeted, just because if everything all came together and the stars aligned, we would have a full staff. And so we have to budget accordingly for that full staff.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you drop down to your fiscal year 25-26 and you talk about reoccurring costs of insurance, that's not surprising. Fire overtime, homeless camps, art in public places, flock camera management. Do we have numbers that you can attach to those?
These are numbers that were previously approved, that were approved in previous council meetings in '24, and they just impacted '25 and on a go-forward basis. So like, for example, homeless camps, 3 or 4 months ago, we came to you in, I believe, the May-June timeframe, and we increased the $130,000 budget to $200,000, and you all approved that. Art and
Fire
public
overtime?
Overtime, we came to you with respect to, that was the AO, because when we did the original budget, we didn't realize about the ambulance operators and the impact that that would have, and that was $250,000. Art in public places, if you remember from the impact fee study, we had to pull the maintenance portion of art in public places out, and there are now 3 separate budgeted line items that total $60,000. Flock camera, we have a maintenance agreement now with respect to, there's 25 flocks at, I believe, $52,500 on an annual basis for that. And then we added through community assistance dollars from Councilmember Gutierrez another 4 this year. If you remember, that started 1 July. So we'll have new maintenance for that after year 1 that we'll have to budget.
At some point?
I'm sure that that can be a collaboration between the police department and city council and city management.
How many flocks? I mean, do we have 100, do we have 200, do we have 1,000? How many?
At some point, we might get flocked out. It might be time, but someone else can figure that, you know, so, but that could be. So, right now, the way it looks, we could get that 51% down to 38%, still above the 33%. But if I were a betting person, based on the salary and benefit analogy, another analogy is the $3 million that you all approved back in June, with a contingency tied to it for the dirt removal down below. The good news is they're already done with Cathedral Canyon. That was the big puppy. That one was over 100,000 yards. Date Palm is only 15.33 yards with respect to what the estimate was. And the Public Works folks in our FEMA meeting today tied back to that the Date Palm should be done by the end of this week, early next week. We'll then be able to go down and look and do the visual inspection. One was going to be done today, one will probably be done next week, the Date Palm one, and see from a visual standpoint, are the control devices okay or not? We'll then have to go out and get a vendor to come in and give us a third-party opinion. And if there is damage, guess what? We will then add another project to the FEMA process for damages tied to those control devices. But right now, fingers crossed, there's no damages. So the bottom line, this year, the good Lord willing, I get to come back and brief you on the financial results next year. I don't think that we're going to have an $11 million deficit. Because the people in this room, we have a vested interest to control costs. And we're a team. Because remember, there's no I in team. And we are a team. So we work together on these kinds of things. The final column, with respect to 25-26, that when you tie back to just a standard increase with respect to revenue and or expenditures, typically we forecast revenue at 4% increases and expenditures at 3% increase. That's what we did here with respect to the numbers, with one caveat. Starting in FY 25-26, That's when we're forecasting over the next 3 years, fingers crossed, that we're going to be receiving the FEMA money from Tropical Storm Hilary. And let me explain why we chose those 3 years. We chose those 3 years because the COVID monies that we had 6 tranches from 20 and 21, it was from January of 2020 through June 30th of 2021. We had 6 different claims to FEMA, $230,000. We got our first check in last week. Today, the city manager forwarded an email that we have our second claim that's being processed. You'll love this. They approved three claims, dollar for dollar. The other 3 claims, they removed charges that they said were not allowable, that they allowed in the ones that they fully claimed. Good example, porta potties. The fire department had porta potties that were through Burtec out at their stations. We rented those porta potties so that they could go in, disrobe, get rid of their garb before they went into their station. Some were approved on the early ones, and they were denied on the later ones. Are we going to fight it and go through the appeal process for $193 here or $239 there? We're just going to chalk it up. We're going to move on. And we're going to take the money and run, and hopefully out of 230, we'll end up with about 175,000. That's not in here because at this time of preparing this, we didn't have any money yet. But based on the obligation status that we were seeing in the FEMA portal, we figured we would get those monies this year. And for what the Tropical Storm Hilary, we're just forecasting it out into those out years. So hopefully we'll get that 75% from FEMA and that 75% of the 25% from Cal OES. Yes, sir.
So I'm hearing you right. So where here it says FEMA revenue, that's COVID FEMA revenue? That's not Hillary FEMA revenue?
Well, it's the projection is for the FEMA revenue from Hillary in 25, 26, 26, 27, and 27, 28. The anecdotal story I was sharing with you now is COVID FEMA revenue.
But this says 24, 25. Are you expecting FEMA revenue in 24, 25, or is that?
I'm looking at the slide. I'm sorry, the FEMA revenue that we're forecasting in 24, 25, I was off a year. We're hoping, we think that with respect, because the A and the B, my apologies, the debris removal and the emergency preparedness, those have made it along in the way. They're not obligated yet, but we're hoping we're going to get it.
So you think you'll get those maybe sometime in the first half of 25, so they'll show up in that fiscal year?
So we might get something, in May, June, but with respect to that. Okay. The only one that's happened so far right now is Parks. Parks, we had a claim of $28,000, and that's been obligated with respect to the damages of the parks. So in the end, we should get about 93% of 28, so around 25, 26.
All right.
And I had a question. Is there an end date? Does FEMA say, by 2028, this situation is resolved? That's the end of it.
We have an obligation end date of 1.5 years.
Okay.
With respect to, so what had happened was on the debris removal in the Whitewater Rush, as I explained, we have that $3 million in there for the contract award that was done. The damages, there was a placeholder in that. No activity had happened on that placeholder for 60 days, so they dropped that. If we do have damages, we're going to have to submit that as a late add. Okay. But when we have time because we're not at 1.5 years yet. Okay, but we're getting close. We're at 14 months. So this is an unusual, when we come with our preliminary financial results, we normally just have the status and then we come to you later, but we put 2 eggs into one basket in this staff report and included a recommendation to be able to take those unutilized dollars that were out there that were committed by the general fund And that's what you have before you here. It totals $395,000. The assistant city manager sent you an email because we didn't have this, we just had the money amount in the staff report and not this list. So apologies for that. You had it yesterday, and this is what it is from a standpoint. You can see it broken up into two parts, an upper half and a lower half of 270,000 vice 125,000. And that's a total of $395 because that goes back to if all of these monies had been spent by June 30th and the work had been done, then our fund balance would have been $395,000 lower. So we're just asking to move that forward. We have asked in our exit interview with our auditors at the end of September for their 2-week period, we asked, is there something out there that you can go dig up, find, make it legit so that we can include in our fiscal impact for the general fund that when we have dollars that are committed by the general fund, if they're not spent but they're committed via contract or whatever, like the upper half, this would cover the $270,000, that we don't have to come back to you all and ask for that. So they're investigating that because no one's ever asked them for that before. So we'll see if that happens.
And the council's remaining funds, those roll?
No, they don't. We're coming to you to ask for those. See, general fund monies do not roll automatically like project monies do from our other funds, like special revenue funds or CIP funds. They do not roll. We have to come to you and ask you. So,
And upon approval of this, they roll?
if you all decide to approve it. Yes, ma'am. So these are the various items that we're asking for approval, totaling $395,000. And that is the recommendation that was in the staff report and in the agenda packet. So any questions?
Well, kind of a question of council. So we have quite a lot of money there that has been budgeted year after year for small projects in your districts. And it never was, when it was originally set up, it was never set up to roll. It doesn't automatically roll. You're supposed to spend it in that year. So council, do you need your money to roll, or are you going to spend it on something, or can it just go back to the general fund and help that number?
I would like the money to roll.
Are you going to spend it this year,
Yes.
or are you just letting it roll and then?
Like flock cameras.
Spending it when appropriate to do so, yes.
All right, well, I guess we can have that discussion at budget time, but the question that always comes as to, well, why would we be adding money to be spent every year and then you're letting it roll? I mean, if you're going to, we have other items on here that we're going to roll because they're going to get spent this year. They're already kind of obligated. But, so that part, it answers the question for that part. The second part, I guess I'm just asking my fellow council members, well, you have something you're working on to spend it on, or are you just letting it roll because it's there?
No, I'm personally waiting for a couple of things to pan out to actually spend the money.
But you have some things you're working on.
Yes, I am working on it.
Okay. Well, I would, of course, support. You notice my name's not on there, and the reason my name's not on there is because I spend the money every year. Sometimes it's in conjunction with other monies because it's a project that's got some mutual benefit. But, and I'm not patting myself on the back because, there could be a year where there's something that is going to be moved over into the next year. But hopefully if I had a year that I just said, well, I don't have anything to spend it on, I would give it back to the general fund so that the city could use it in other purposes. But so if that's what you're doing, my fellow council members, I think that's great and that's admirable. But if you're just putting it there, and I heard somebody say, in case something comes along that I want to do, well, I would chastise all of us that it's part of our responsibility when we get that money to try to identify a project every year to try to do. So I would request my fellow council members, if they're going to have this fund, that they actually make some effort to use it. Thank you, Mayor.
You're very welcome. Any other comments or questions?
I do have a question, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Now, there was a savings of $2 million from maintenance and operations. Can you tell us how does that work?
That's general fund money. It just goes back into the fund balance. The savings from maintenance and operations, the biggest element of the savings from maintenance and operations was the original debris removal up north with respect to the dirt, because that dirt was estimated at about a $3 million cost, and it came in at like 1.617 with all the extra costs.
So that's where the savings were?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So that's how something like that happens, and that would just go back into fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
And I was going to just make a comment saying that in terms of my commitment to the community in District 1, John Corella and I had a great discussion about the 6 possible projects that could be funded. I couldn't fund them all, but I prioritized them, and the first one was refurbishing the basketball court, which is just south of Napa on Van Fleet, and it was used frequently during COVID because people were crazy and needed to get out of the house, and now it looks beautiful, and there are benches, and it's just fantastic. And the second one is an ADA ramp in front of Cathedral Palms, and then there are 3 others that I can consider based on the money I have left. Thank you. Just to let you know.
Public comments?
Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms, and we currently have no members in attendance.
Kevin, thank you once again. Very informative, very, very clear.
Thank you very much.
Great job. Thank you.
I would like to add, we're going to revisit, not this, but we're going to come back with more budget information on the 13th of November, including a plan to do some expenditure reductions to help reduce that potential deficit for next year.
Thanks, Charlie. Do I have a motion and a second?
A motion. Oh, that's right. A motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote.
That's not what it says.
Oh, okay.
It says second by Carnavale, but it wasn't me.
It's supposed to be Gutierrez and Lamb and Lamb.
Gutierrez and Lamb.
I'm trying to clear
I
it.
might have pushed a button. I do not know.
Let me try and clear it. Apologies, it is stuck, so we'll go ahead and do a roll call. So we have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Roll call, Councilmember Lamb? Councilmember Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gregory?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ross? Yes. Mayor Carnavale?
Aye.
Motion carries all ayes.
Kevin, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have a good
it.
evening.
Okay, are there any items that council would like to discuss? Anything? Going once? Going to twice? Going 3 times? Okay, there's no closed session items. The next regular city council meeting will be held on November 13th. Thank you, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, you've got some time, yeah?